Okay, thank you everybody for taking some time out to attend the meeting. Appreciate your attendance here. I want to apologize ahead of time for those of you who were on the meeting this morning. The first 4 or 5 slides are just review, but I wanted to make sure this group had a chance to get this information as well, in case it wasn't shared to them. So, first, order of housekeeping here. Just wanted to remind everyone to use that fiscal@laca.org email address. Um, I kind of modified a little um, picture here to just remind you, please don't reach out to us individually if there's some sort of question that you have. Um, just because we're trying to track the tickets that get created, just gives us a better opportunity to keep a history of what's going on. It also gives um, our boss a chance to kind of monitor the workload that we take on a regular basis. Whereas the personal emails or any other email address that may have been used in the past just doesn't have that capability. So just would appreciate it if you keep it to that fiscal@laca.org. If you want to send a ticket in that is addressed to one of us specifically, just go ahead and address it to us, and then we'll kind of try to split it up accordingly based off of your request. But at least use that fiscal@laca.org email address going forward. We would appreciate it. Wanted to give you guys an update on the email that I sent out a while ago regarding the Pay Stub Protection Act. Um, if you were on this morning, I was kind of talking about this a little bit as far as just trying to pass along a little bit of extra information. So, just on a basic Google search, it kind of tells you what changes, just click on one of these links. It kind of just tells you what kind of changes you should expect um, to have to do for, as an employer in the state of Ohio for your pay stubs. Last week I went to a conference and we had a kind of a discussion regarding this topic. And over the weekend, State Software released an update to make some of these additional fields that were not part of the pay slips available. Pretty much, well, not everyone, but the majority of the districts in our world use a custom pay slip, with the logo and maybe some different information here and there. That's just a little bit different than the default pay slip in the system. So I've gone ahead and made those changes in your software that are available at this point. I think I do. I have an example of a pay slip that kind of shows where some of the new information is, starting with the pay period start date, which for some reason wasn't on the original pay slips. So now the start date and the end date of the pay period for that particular employee are there, as well as adding in a rate field, total hours worked. And then there's another field that's kind of a gray area. This is probably the most disputed and undefined part of this particular issue that was passed. It's not seemingly defined very well. So I know that State Software is working with multiple legal advisors to try to obtain a better understanding of what this is. I've inquired multiple times on certain questions, and basically what I've got was they are preparing a discussion for tomorrow morning with ITCs that they're going to try to, either get information, answer questions, or at least spell out what hours over 40 hours per week actually means. and how to possibly input information into payroll so that it gives you this on a pay slip accordingly. In this particular example, I would expect to see a value for hours over 40 hours per week. But I'm getting zero. So I don't particularly know how this is being calculated or whatnot, but I will know more tomorrow morning. What I've done so far is put a like a test payslip in all of your databases so that your payroll people can generate some test databases if they want, just to kind of look over the information, make sure everything looks good. If there are any adjustments that you'd like to have made to your pay slips, let me know, and I will be sharing the information that I get from tomorrow's meeting with State Software with everyone in hopes that, well, I mean, it's got to happen that by April the 9th, a working pay slip will be in order for any April 10th payrolls, since the law goes into effect on April the 9th. So just wanted to kind of put your minds, I guess, at least inform you what's going on, and let you know that this is being debated, scrutinized, and discussed very thoroughly, as I know that there are hundreds of questions coming in on a regular basis to at least State Software trying to define and understand what this these changes are going to mean going forward. So I'm trying to get as prepared as I can, but here's what I got so far. So I'll keep you posted on any updates and then additional information that I get as I attend that meeting tomorrow. Any questions real quick on that? Let me get rid of this thing. Okay. Okay, another State Software piece of information is that, and I've probably told you this in previous meetings, but if you haven't heard it before, they are moving the file archive out of the software. It's not really something that's going to impact the end user, such as you guys. Currently, the file archive exists under the utilities menu. What's going to happen is we have to run a program to migrate your current reports from where they currently exist to a new location. The goal in this is to speed up the software a little bit, help speed up backups, because as you know, as you close months and close posting periods, run payrolls, store information in the software, it just grows and grows, and they're trying to make sure that the software stays as efficient as it can be. So in doing this, it's going to require a small migration that we are going to do for you. It needs to be done over a weekend because it could take 2 to maybe, I don't know, I think they said 2 to like 20 hours. It was the most it took to migrate a district's file archive. So we're going to do that over a weekend. We'll let you know when we'll do that. It's going to be assigned most likely by State Software because they don't want everybody to go rushing and doing this all at once. And it should be available in April, later this month. So just kind of look forward to that. I'll kind of keep you posted on when this is going to happen. So that way, if you try to log in over a weekend for some reason, and you're not able to log in, this is probably going to be why, but just wanted to keep you posted on that. A benefit of this is that they've also been able, oh, I guess, let me back up a second. So under the utilities menu, there's going to be a new item called document storage that's going to basically take the place of the old file archive. And then part of that document storage feature, it's going to look exactly the same as far as having the different tabs on the top of the file archive the way it looks now. You're not going to really notice much of a difference using that. What you will notice is there's going to be an additional tab added to the back part of that says search. And what the search capabilities are pretty cool. I know sometimes looking through the file archive to find a historical report or some sort of piece of information can become cumbersome, especially as that thing grows and just becomes crazy. So part of the search feature, or what the search is able to do, is you could type in a vendor name, a check number, a purchase order number, um, maybe a combination of a vendor name and a purchase order number. And within a matter of seconds, a search is going to be able to pull out any reports that have that piece of information inside of them. So, and then you can kind of just, that'll drastically narrow your list of reports down to whatever you're kind of looking for. So that's kind of the benefit of doing this as well. So just wanted to kind of keep you posted on that coming up. I'll likely maybe throw this into the May um, software update and give it a little demo of how it works. And then I'll also maybe send out some documentation once it's migrated over to give you a little, give you some idea of how it works and what to look for. So um, just wanted to let you know that was coming. Update on kiosk Ippy Dippy. So they are hoping to have a state software version of Ippy Dippy, a replacement application available this July. They are currently in process of developing it. Last week I was able to see a short demo of how it works. It essentially looks just like ESS. And they kind of have a different color scheme. So if you're logged into both for some reason, you can kind of tell which one you're in. But essentially, it kind of functions the same way. And so right now there is a group of ITC and district, like a focus group, that are meeting at least once a month to provide input into this program so that when it's available in July, it's going to work as people who regularly use Ippy Dippy, want it to work. So it's kind of being molded by users this time as opposed to being molded by tech people who are just trying to build a program. So I kind of like where they're going with it. Our director, Stephanie, is part of this focus group. She used to do a lot of Ippy Dippy in her prior jobs, so she has a lot to feedback on this. So, and since I mentioned that, she also wanted to send out an email to all of the district superintendents and committee chairpersons. So if you could, Tiffany, we've kind of put together like a little spreadsheet that we're going to put in the chat. We had this out there this morning, and only some of the districts actually entered information into it. If you can, please list who your committee chairperson is with their contact information so that she can send information to the districts. She basically just thought that it would be nice to at least inform everyone out there that this was coming and this is going to be available. Even if you're not using the kiosk version of the Ippy Dippy program, you could still use this and just start it up from scratch and it's available. Those districts who are using the kiosk Ippy Dippy, the information inside of those programs can be migrated over to this new program, such as users and plans and activities, the chair, the committee information. There's a lot of information that's stored inside of Ippy Dippy that's coming from payroll and coming from ODE, whatever. So all of those connections and pieces of information, I'm being told should be able to be moved over and migrated from the kiosk over to this new state software Ippy Dippy platform. So if you're interested in using it, that's great. At some point, if you just, if you think you want to use this, let us know. That way we can include you in the setup and migrations of this whenever it becomes available, or whenever you would like to have this done at your district. You may not want it done right away in July. You may want to do it, after school's back in session and your committee has a chance to meet. I don't know, just whatever you want to do. Just keep in mind that the existing kiosk and all of the information inside of it will be gone as of December 31st of 25. We have extracted some of, or every district's like leave information. Um, and we should be extracting all of the IPDIPI information, at least to kind of store where we know that it's at. But anyways, just know that that's going to be gone as of 12/31. I mean, this isn't something you have to do as far as if you have another development software that you're looking into or someone else has used and you want to try it, that's fine too. Just wanted you to know that state software is developing this program and it's out there and going to be available this summer. So, any questions on IPDIPI? All right, another payroll topic that I talked about this morning. I don't know how much you guys really dabble into this, but you may want to know. I was in um, at the conference I attended last week. I was at an American Fidelity session, and they talked about their payroll integration that they currently offer. Some districts, we have like 3 or 4 that are already doing this, which is really nice because it essentially eliminates the manual export of information, manipulation of information, and then sending it to American Fidelity for your enrollment purposes and whatever you're doing with American Fidelity. And it basically just creates a direct route of information sharing between um, their software and USPS. So essentially, this is going to work something like a Bonefish or an SC View as far as a user account that gets created. A secure email is going to be sent to American Fidelity with a password so that they can create their link into USPS and get the information that they need. They've already got templates set up. They've worked with numerous districts and ITCs across the state to set this up. And so far they've, they're really proud of this product and the amount of time that it saves districts. They wanted to, half of the discussion was how safe and secure this connection is. And they don't share information or anything like that. So they wanted us to pass that along when we talk to you. If this is something that you're interested in, you just have to talk to your American Fidelity account manager and enroll. They also wanted to let us know that they are not charging districts at all for this feature. And that if you're using American Fidelity, this is saving them a lot of time and it's getting information to them more accurately. So they're definitely not wanting to charge anything for this type of connection. This is only available for state software at this point. We did have, okay, so it's not available for any other fiscal product in the state, but so far it's just a state software possibility for American Fidelity integration. So if this is something you're interested in, if you haven't already set this up, you can contact your American Fidelity account manager and they can work with you to get things set up.
Hey Jake, this is
Yes.
Lee from Lancaster,
Uh-huh.
and we tried that this year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a disaster.
Oh, no.
And maybe it's because of our size, but I would just caution people, if you're from a smaller district, it may be easier for you to verify the information. But for us, I know you and I had talked because there was some field with the city or a village or something that didn't have something right. Well, they pull everything, not just stuff that, they need to upload. But we had a lot of issues with getting spreadsheets back from them that weren't accurate. They had old people that no longer were with our district. So we've chosen next year, we're gonna pull the information again ourselves because, you know, trash
Yeah,
it,
that's
trash it.
that
So,
was something that was discussed during the session, and there was some discussion on something similar to what you experienced.
so
They yeah.
I think that potentially it could save some time, but I think American Fidelity, the people who are pulling it need to get more intimate with um like the payroll codes and the accuracy of what they're pulling from our files to make sure that it's on point. But for Lancaster, I mean, we're just too big. It took so much time. Every time they would send back a file, we'd have to verify it and would wonder why certain people were on it when they're no longer with the district. So I'm not discouraging it for others. I'm just saying you need to not just trust the process, you really need to verify what they're sending back for uploads.
Appreciate that feedback. I do know that there have been a couple other districts that have recently set this up, and so far they've been okay with it. But yeah, part of my discussion was that there is got to be some sort of data scrubbing of some sort prior to getting this set up. They do have some better instructions now on what they're sending districts on certain procedures and what to do to try to avoid some of those maybe conflicts. But I don't know if Julie, if that's something that's just not necessarily avoidable or whatever. I'm not super familiar with those issues you are experiencing, but yeah. So if you're interested, I'm not trying to sell this or anything. I just wanted to pass along the information. If it's something you want to talk to your account manager about, um, and want to get something set up, just let us know. Okay. All right, just some EMIS updates. Next collection, staff and course collection is in August. August the 6th is when that's due. The financial collections open up on June the 5th. And 5-year forecast is the next one that's actually coming due on May 31st. We've got a link on our website and on the PowerPoint here to get to those instructions. Those should not really have changed since last year, so hopefully you're not having any issues with those. Just some basic other information. We do tend to get a similar set of EMIS questions. So we just try to make sure we have some additional EMIS information on our PowerPoints. I'm not really going to go through this with you guys. We kind of went through some of this stuff this morning, but if you guys have any issues with your financial collections or your staff collections, you can reach out to us on the fiscal team, and we're happy to kind of help you look into those with you so that we can figure out what we can do to fix your EMIS collections. Okay, so far, any other questions, comments on anything we've talked about? Just this is something we also kind of do this time of year, just kind of give you a preview on what you can do the next couple months to get ready for the end of the fiscal year. Under core organization, you can update that central office square footage if you needed to update it. Under the building profiles, and I'm not going to go into detail. A lot of this, it's just repetitive from year to year. Just a quick reminder on what you guys can do. Under the periodic menu, under building profiles, you can update your transportation and lunchroom percentages. Just make sure that those total 100% when you're putting that in for each building. And then these next couple of things are going to be kind of interesting going forward. You can run that account validation report in the report manager to pull out any issues with any accounts that you have. I was also informed last week, and I probably should have known about this well before this, but and you guys probably maybe already know, there's coming soon, I don't know when, a major change to the USAS manual, and a lot of accounts are going to be affected. State software is working closely with the parties responsible to make sure that they are prepared when when this change comes into effect, or when these changes come into effect. That is why you are possibly seeing on the release notes, there's not a lot of USAS updates, but when there are, a lot of them have to do with account change and fund change and things like that. So they're preparing for this major USAS manual fix. They wouldn't dive into any of the details of what's changing. Maybe you guys know some of that stuff, but I don't have that information. And when that comes out, they should have some procedures in place to get your accounts switched over to what they need to be going forward. So I apologize for maybe throwing up some sort of, I don't know, just don't want to raise too much excitement about this, but just so you know, something big is coming. But they're trying to help you fix these changes once they come out. So just so you know, that's coming. Let's see. And then also verify under core OPU your operational units. All right, so that's basically your list of things you can just kind of look at now, take a peek at, and get fixed prior to the beginning of the fiscal year and closing. We'll put those same items on the closing checklist, but those are just things you can kind of look at now. All right. Next topic, I'm going to talk about budgeting. I was in a budgeting meeting a few weeks ago, and I just kind of threw this together. I don't know. The next two slides are relatively the same thing. One looks like this, and the other one's just kind of a bullet point thing. But just to kind of review, because I know you guys don't do budgeting, you just kind of touch it, for a little while during the year, and then you leave it alone for a while. So it's not something you use every single day. But in that budgeting menu, you've got your scenarios and your proposed amounts. Your scenarios are essentially just it's a compilation of worksheets for your accounts. It gives you the ability to input what you want your proposed amount to be for certain accounts. And then once you have all of your scenarios built, whether you have one worksheet with all of the accounts, or you have 10 different worksheets with different funds and different types of accounts or different buildings, or whatever you do to separate your accounts into worksheets, the scenarios is what holds that group of worksheets. Over the years, we've talked about how to create new worksheets and upload worksheets from an outside report. I'll kind of demo in the software this in just a few minutes, but and then last year it was the first time we talked about cloning your scenarios from a prior year. So if you've created your scenarios from within USAS using the instructions that we've kind of gone over the last few years, you shouldn't have an issue cloning from year to year, which should save you a lot of time not having to create those scenarios from scratch. But once those scenarios are done, you basically promote the scenario. It creates proposed amounts for the next year. Those amounts will exist under core accounts under the next year proposed field until July 1st of the upcoming year. And then once you have those proposed amounts finalized, you apply them into core accounts, which then those proposed amounts become initial budgets or initial revenues. So just kind of a little diagram I thought might be helpful to help explain what's going on here, just as a refresher. This is just kind of the same thing, just in a bullet point format. I've got some helpful documents that we've got on our website. Hopefully they're helpful. Also it goes to the manual. So I've got a few different things you can use. Here's our document. So those are what we've kind of gone over step by step in the past. So let me, have anything else? Oops. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to kind of dive into a little test database that I've got here. So if you guys go to the budgeting menu and go to scenarios, you're likely going to have a compilation of different scenarios that you've accumulated for the last few years. I'm going to pretend for this discussion that this FY26 scenario doesn't exist. And I'm going to open up this FY25 scenario. Excuse me. And this might look familiar to some of you guys who have maybe separated your scenario into a group of different worksheets. If those worksheets were created within the scenario, like we've talked about in the past, and I'll kind of go back to that in a second. And I'm just kind of going over this first because it's the easiest method. Then what you should be able to do is clone this scenario into next year's scenario. So as you see, while we're in the view mode, this clone button is available. Okay, so if you were to clone it, it should bring up a box that looks like this. So what you can do is you can give this new scenario a new name. I'm actually just gonna dump it because I've already got it. I gave mine an FY26 name, and essentially it's just going to bring in the same worksheets that you had on the previous year. All right. The best thing about cloning is what I'm about ready to show you. Oh, and also you're going to want to put in the fiscal year that of the scenario that you're working on. The best part about cloning is once you hit the edit button, it brings out all of these different icons within your scenario. Edit would mean you can open up the worksheet and just basically edit the worksheet from within. I would recommend not using that one first. What I would recommend doing is going through each one of the worksheets within your scenario and doing what's called a regenerate. This regenerate button only exists if you used the software to create your worksheet. If you imported a worksheet from outside of the software, then that regenerate button likely isn't going to work for you. Because what it's going to do is it's going to be looking at all of the field names you've told it to pull in on your worksheet. Also look at any of the filters that you've used to kind of filter your information on that particular worksheet. So for this one is a 001 fund with a 100 object code for anything in the 100s, and any account that is currently showing active. So the best part about regenerating your worksheet, and I'm just going to use a smaller one. I know that one's kind of big, so I'm just going to use a smaller one. This one's built the same way. So active accounts, 019 fund, and any object between $108.99. So this is kind of a little bit more detailed. If you click regenerate and then you save the sheet, what it's going to do is it's going to rebuild this worksheet from what your current settings are in the software. So that means if sometime throughout the year you've unchecked the active button beside one of your accounts, saving this worksheet, and it's going to give you a little warning button and creating this new worksheet, it's going to exclude any of those inactive accounts and only give you the accounts that you're showing as active. So you're not having to really recreate the filters or put the field names in there. You're essentially just regenerating the worksheet to update it with good valid accounts. Hopefully that makes sense. But so you're going to want to do that for all of your worksheets that you've cloned in, so that all of your worksheets are up to date with your active accounts. And again, that's only going to work is if when you regenerate your sheet, you've got a filter on there that says active, and you only want truly active accounts, or active equals true, or that checkbox that says active is checked. That's what's going to pull in only the active accounts. If you don't have this filter here, which is essentially, if it's not there, all you have to do is on the configure filters tab, you can double click or click and drag active over and do equals true, and that's it. And it's going to essentially do the same thing. So if your sheets don't have that active filter, I encourage you to do it. So that way, when you regenerate your sheets, you're regenerating it using a whole new list of accounts that are only active. And any old accounts that you no longer want to use won't be included in your worksheet. You won't have to manually get rid of them. Anyway, it's just a way of kind of keeping your worksheets up to date. Once you've regenerated all of your worksheets, what you can do is you can edit one. And this basically brings you into a system Excel document per se. This is kind of the easiest way I have of updating these amounts. If you recall, in prior years, you have this PA dash year column. This stands for the proposed amounts for whatever year you're working on. So since we're working on 2026, we've identified that within the scenario, it's going to post that on each worksheet. This worksheet was programmed to bring in all of these different amounts. If you want to use like the amount that was expended from last year as your budget amount for this year, this will accept formulas. So, you can even you can do an equals formula. You can do a multiplied by a certain percentage formula. This has a lot of capabilities, so you can do that. You can copy formulas if you want. You should be able to. Oops. You can edit. You can manually type in a certain field if you want. Whatever you need to do to enter your PA numbers. You should be able to even do a sum formula. Come on now. Let's do this. Fat fingering everything here. Sorry about that. There we go. I just was missing a parenthesis. Anyways, if you wanted to check your numbers, you just want to make sure that you get rid of that total before you accept. So once you make your changes, you simply accept your worksheet. And after you have made any changes to this, I always recommend going back up here to this scenario save. Essentially what that Well, I mean, I know a lot of times people will make changes and then they just close out or get busy doing something. Unfortunately, that's not gonna, the changes that you made aren't gonna get saved unless you save your scenario. So that's always a big reminder that I always try to pass along to you guys when you make changes. So essentially, you're just gonna repeat that process for all of the sheets that you've got created. Until you have all of your budgets built for next year. What I would caution is, and this tends to kind of occur once or twice every year, is that some account or accounts find their way onto multiple worksheets. You want to be careful not to include the same account on multiple worksheets. Quite honestly, I don't know if you've got a value in the PA 2026 column on one worksheet and you've got a 0 on another worksheet and you promote this scenario, I don't know which number it's actually going to grab. I don't even know which number it's supposed to grab because it's listed twice. And that has caused some issues in the past. But I would just kind of be careful. It's possible to find this and fix it, but it's just, just to try to avoid that, having an account be in multiple worksheets within a scenario. And then also wanted to point out that you can not only do your budget worksheets in here, you can also do a worksheet for revenues all within the same scenario if desired. So that's kind of the cloning process, where you are able to regenerate your worksheets to kind of update them. And then you can use the edit feature to modify them. If it's easier for you to work out of Excel, you could always use this download button, download it to a spreadsheet, make your changes in Excel, and then use this upload and replace button beside the worksheet line to then take, replace the prior version of your worksheet with the one you've updated in Excel. So that's kind of what these other buttons can do. And then if you want to delete a fund or a worksheet altogether, you just use this X button. Remember, anytime you make any changes to any of the worksheets, always go back to the scenario and save it. All right. Now, if you did not build your worksheets within the software, within the scenarios from a prior year, and say you've used an outside spreadsheet or some other way of importing into a prior year scenario, you're likely not going to be able to regenerate. That's not going to work for you. So what you may have to do is just create a scenario from scratch. And save that. Let's see. So then what you can do is once you have a new scenario created from scratch, you can essentially, if you're working off of a spreadsheet, there are certain headers that are required to be, so I should have that. I apologize, should have had this prepared. Anyways, there are instructions in the manual on using an outside spreadsheet to upload into the upload into a scenario. I don't know that I would recommend doing this, but just because it's so much easier to clone from year to year and then regenerate your worksheets from year to year. Having to build them from scratch every year just isn't something I would be doing, but it might be better for you. So whatever you want to do, that's fine. And we could figure out either way. I know this was kind of a very quick and I didn't get too super detailed with accounts or anything, but do you guys I just wanted to give you guys a refresher because some of you guys are getting better at this than I am. So, and some of you guys have already got your FY26 budgets already, you're starting to work on them. So, does anybody have any questions as far as a scenario is building a scenario at this point? Okay, next step, once a scenario is fully built and you're good with all of the worksheets inside of that scenario, you will go back to your scenario grid after you've saved your scenario and it's all good. And then the next step is hitting this up arrow to promote the scenario. Keep in mind this nice little warning message says that promoting will replace all existing proposed amounts. That is any existing proposed amounts for that particular fiscal year. So if you've promoted a scenario for FY26 and then you return back to the scenarios grid, make some changes, and you re-promote, it will overwrite your first promotion. So that may or may not be what you want it to do, but this warning just kind of gives you a heads up. Hey, this is what's going to happen. And it will update both the expenditure and revenue accounts for the fiscal years related to this scenario. So once you have that, once you're okay with that message, you will promote. And then what happens to the accounts after you promote them is they will now then exist on your proposed amounts grid, which is the other item under the budgeting menu. And I apologize, it's been a while since I've done this, so here we go. Didn't realize. Okay, so that was actually pretty quick because there were a lot of accounts inside of that scenario. I didn't update them all, but there were still a lot of accounts. So under budgeting, proposed amounts. When you do this, you should have now a fiscal year 26 tab, or inside of this fiscal year tab, 26 will now be included. And this is going to include all of the years that you have promoted a scenario into proposed budgets. Every year you can just kind of click back and forth between years and it'll give you the amounts that you've actually promoted. So, anyways, this is going to give you one last opportunity to kind of review the amounts that you've added into your worksheets. What I would do is choose the fiscal year, and what I would immediately do after that is run a report from the grid. And essentially I wouldn't make any changes, just generate the report as is. Takes a second to run if there's a lot of accounts. And then I would scroll all the way down to the last page and make sure that the grand total matches up with what you would expect your budgets to be for that year. This is oftentimes when I get a phone call that says, hey, my proposed grids don't match what I'm expecting. What's the problem? And this is oftentimes when an amount that you've possibly entered on a worksheet is showing 0 in the proposed amount grid because it exists in another worksheet that has 0 beside it. And again, I don't know if it exists in 2 different worksheets, which amount that it actually pulls whenever it does the conversion over, the promoting of the amounts. So that's when you're essentially going to, the easiest way to fix it if it's just 1 or 2 accounts is to return back to this proposed budget grid. You can use the filters to find that account and simply just edit it and then put your proposed amount in here and save it. And once you save it, you can rerun your report, make sure that it balances, and then you can move on. Again, while the accounts are sitting inside of this particular grid, they are going to live on your accounts. I'm just going to pick a silly account. That's not where I wanted to go. Sorry. Wrong tab. we're gonna go here. So it's gonna live on the expenditure account, in this, oh, come on. In this next year proposed amount, field. So that's just where it kind of is. If you were to open up July or any months after July and do future like purchase orders, that next year's proposed amount can be used for like a balance tracking type of mechanism that might block people from creating transactions over the next year proposed amount. And that's kind of why it exists that way. Once you hit July 1st, oh, let me back up a second. I missed a step. So returning back to this proposed amounts grid, the final thing you want to do after you make sure all of your amounts are good is you want to make sure you choose your fiscal year. You want to apply. All right. So applying is what actually is going to create that initial budget amount once you hit July of, once you switch over into July of the next year. You have the option of choosing temporary or permanent. If you are just doing a temporary budget and then you're going to be making changes to it and doing another budget after things have been finalized with the board and whatnot, you can choose temporary. Anytime you choose permanent, you can override a temporary or you can override another permanent. It's just however you're working on your budgets for that particular year. It tells you down here when the effective date is, when these budgets will replace the prior year's initial budgets. And then once you're good with your selection, you hit apply. That's the final step of the budgeting process. Once you flip the calendar over to July, then those amounts then become your new budgets for the year, and so forth. I think, yeah, okay, apply proposed amounts. I think that takes care of it. I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about with budgeting. Do you guys have any specific questions or any you guys do things slightly different, so it's really kind of hard for me to get too detailed with one particular method because you guys do have a lot of creative ways to do things. So if you have any issues or questions as you're working on your scenarios or your proposed budgets for next year, feel free to call. And even if you guys do everything exactly right, sometimes you guys just need another set of eyes just giving you some validation. So I'm here for that as well if you want to do that. So does anybody have any specific questions or concerns or issues that you recall from last year or comments? Essentially, nothing's changed from last year that I know of when it comes to budgeting, so it should be exactly the same as what you did last year. I'm seeing nothing in the chat. Don't forget, if you can, please, before you sign off for the meeting today, to open up that Google Doc in the chat, and please enter your chairperson and their email address into that document, so that Stephanie can get some information sent out to your districts on that. Let's see. Upcoming meetings, we are going to do a state software update on 5/22. So in that software update, I will likely cover some of the changes that are being made to the file archive. I don't know what other big changes are coming up in May, but that'll probably be the big one. I might do a little demo on the search capabilities and whatnot, but so tune in for that. I'm trying to find some relevant topics for those meetings. I think that the information that I'm able to pass along to you guys is getting better in some of these software updates, but you know, so we're trying that. Then we're going to do our year-end meetings on June the 5th. We've had a pretty good turnout today, so I hope these afternoon treasurers type meetings aren't too bad for you guys. They work out pretty well for us, and I like to get these done at the beginning of the month a lot of times. So at least we're not spreading them out like a week apart like we used to, and giving you this information sooner and sooner, all the time. So that's kind of the goal on that. So anyways, here's a list of the upcoming meetings if you guys want to post those on your calendars. Let's see, and then that's pretty much it for today. I don't have anything else unless you guys have questions. Anybody with questions, comments? Okay, thank you all again for attending the meeting today. If anything comes to mind, again, fiscal@alaca.org. And Julie, I forgive you.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you
all right.
for coming.
Stephanie already forwarded me to the emails, so I've got those in my inbox waiting for me.
Okay.
So yeah, if you don't send that fiscal email address, somebody's got to forward me the stuff, or you know, Tiffany too. So it just takes extra work to get it to us. So that's it. I will talk to you guys soon, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, have a
Thank
good
you.
one. You're welcome.